Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so real. So real. Yeah. I'm subhuman. What kind of woman wanna love a mutant? Resort to me after these thugs use them. My bedroom is a strange ruin. Last time I hit a chick was King Drive and she ain't done suing. I'm done doing wasted years, I'm ruined. I attempt to shoot and score, but it's my destiny to be a troubadour. A true abhor, I'm like a Labrador. Retriever receiving the red flag matador. I'm mad at the world. I once portrayed I was a savage to bedazzle a girl. Stiletto heels and sew-ins, I would lavish her. Told me I was soft, trying to romance her, I should ravish her. World around, left me for real niggas, the word around. World renowned, what mirrors reveal, I admit. I'll always be a coward and I ain't worth shit. Roses I read, the double Glock between my eyes blue. It's imminent, I'm too fucking effeminate, I'm a fool.
I've always put my pride aside, I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise, simply play it cool. I'm foolish, yeah.
I'm so self-conscious with no self-conscious. It's times I went too far and I got some mental scarring. I had this melanated girl but hesitated to be thorough. My time went in the rhymes, I'm trying to elevate the world. Mutual attraction but lacking physically in figure. Contrast to the ass being the famous rapper. Get you is brewing, other women alluring. And now the more we sex you feel neglected. Our connections getting ruined. You would fight for my love while I chase bitches that don't love me. You even cook for me but she got a better look for me. You spin your racks up on me, hit niggas with the ratchet for me, just for us to be in matrimony. But friend zone it, the brother who would love to serve you, cause I never deserved you. So neither us is using virtue. Can't you see we in a circle? Each of us are cruel. For them I'm a fool, for me you a fool. Betty asking too.
I've always put my pride aside, I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise, simply play it cool. I'm foolish, I'm foolish, yeah.
My troubled eyes browsing subsidized housing. This bubbled ad lousy shit to leave your ag gouging. I'd rather be fad doused than hear these verbal roundhouses. Y'all raising your mouths loud. Can't you see your child's rousing? My look upon lounging. He superstole my masculinity. And up there slept and crept disaster enemies. Look at myself doubting all these passive tendencies. I had passive piety, but cash is deity. Niggas went from dope sack selling to cul-de-sac dwelling. I kept the 9 to 5, wept and wide, but why? My stomach large and my face hardened. Gone is my hopes. Spent 4 years on car notes, my wage garnished. I still keep feeling like I ain't shit. Even if I had a fucking facelift, it's self-hatred. To eat a 9mm told me to pill a hater. To kill the day to live like told me Philippator.
I've always put my pride aside, I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise, simply play it cool. Cause I'm foolish, I'm foolish, yeah.
Cause I'm foolish.
All right, let me change. Damn, let me change cameras. Give me 1 second, y'all. Get started.
All right.
Done something I ain't got no business doing. Hold on. All right, let's see where I want to be at. What have I done? Hit the camera too. Hit the camera. Damn. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. I done duplicated some kind of way. I done duplicated.
Is that a newer logo with the microscope?
No, that's Sean's up there.
In Science We Trust.
Yeah, in Science We Trust. Yeah, y'all give me 1 second, y'all. I done something. I'm trying to get back to my okay, there we go. All right, first I want to say peace and Black African power. Welcome back to Kofi Piesie ResearchTeam with Kofi Piesie ResearchTeam. We got I ain't gonna say it's a guest. We got our brother. He's a member of the group that I belong to, and me and Sean belong to, the Mighty Mossi Warrior Clan. But first, before I get started, I want to say ETM Hotel, Dua Aku, Dua Netcha, Fatmu Alafiye, Fatmu Riri, Fatmu Iwa Pele, Majuba Ibi Gungun, Majuba Ibi Gungun, Majuba Ibi Alakba, Majuba Ibi Alakba. I also want to extend honor and praises to the true and living elders out there according to an African perspective and an African worldview. But first, before we get started, y'all please like and share the show, man. Please like and share the show before we get started. Let me do this. Well, I'll throw this up here first. We'll do this first. Again, this is another show, author's perspective. Again, we'll be interviewing our brother Amirah. And I always say, I promise when I go live, I said I'll continue to do this, is continue to reiterate the mandates for the new Independent African Academy. We try to set ourselves aside from that other community over there. This community, the new Independent African Academy, we have goals, we have mandates, we have codes of conduct. So welcome to the new Independent African Academy. First, let's go through the list. We have, let me blow it up a little bit more. I got my glass on, I'm still blind as a bat. But it says never talk down on another NIAA member in public, no pseudo research methodology must be followed. Teach those who are ready and willing to learn, support the members, disagreements handled in private. No one is above critique. We must stand for Black African and the descendants in the diaspora. Zero tolerance for dishonesty. Iwariri is the standard for how one must conduct themselves. Iwariri means good character. Iwapele means gentle character. No selfish acts, no scamming, no paraphernalia, no disrespecting of Black women, race first, supporting Black businesses, integrity. Many must possess the will to learn. Each one teach one, or as we say, as I learn, we all learn. These are the goals of the new Independent African Academy. The goals are to produce more authors, produce exceptional men and women, institutions for learning, entrepreneurship, scientific literacy, scholarships for the youth, long-lasting marriages, create rites of passages, unifications, and multiple support groups. Let me stop sharing. Sean, you on the panel, man. You got something, man, before we jump into the interview?
Big up to all our haters. Let's get it in, man. Let's get it in. I'm just ready for the interview.
All right. Also, you know, if you supporting us, let me throw this up here. Well, my thing don't want act like it don't want to. Hold on. I'm trying to put it. Okay, it ain't doing it because I'm on here. Again, if you support us, go get your new Independent African Academy t-shirts. They are available on our Mboka Family Connect apparel. Again, that is new Independent African Academy. Also, go get my book, Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo. Come out a few months ago if you want to learn about the different elements of what y'all call an African traditional religion or African spirituality. Which I have contention with both of those words. Please, but if you want to learn about Kimoyo, this is the book for you. I'm telling you, it's a great book. Also, we dropped Spirit Masters a couple of weeks ago. So go get Spirit Master Historical Survey in the Minds of African Warrior Scholars, Volume 4. It is out now. It's on the same tree, different branch publishing, our publishing company, as well as the Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo. Sean book is officially out. He was taking pre-orders. Book doing pretty good. So appreciate everybody that's been supporting Brother Sean. The official date was yesterday. The book release, the book release was yesterday on the 15th. So go check out that show on the Pseudo Killers. If y'all missed the show on the Pseudo Killers, it was pretty good till they let all the crazy folks on the panel. So go and support, man. It's also on Same Tree, Different Branch Publishing. Go out and support those various publications that we have out. We worked hard for it. So please go and support. We guarantee that we won't let you down. Let me do this, but my thing done come off of here. Get this back up here. No. Hold on, y'all. Well, shoot, it'll be all right. But let's get into it, man. Brother Maat Ra, could you please introduce yourself briefly, just briefly, because I had to say briefly because a lot of times when I ask people to introduce themselves, man, they'll go on and then some of the questions that I want to ask, they already done said it within the introduction. So if you could kind of briefly introduce yourself for people that may not know who Maat Ra is.
Right. I'm an independent author and researcher. I'm based in the Midwest. I'm from Ohio. So, I started on my path at, junior college. But to fast forward, I had the honor of being around the Amirah squad, the Mossi Warrior Clan, and brothers such as yourself. So, I think the most important thing would be, the Seshu crew, Seshu, Mani, Medunetu. I think that's the common thread that really brought everything together.
Okay. All right, man. So, man, I've been looking forward to this, man. I've been trying to get you on the panel. Y'all, please like and share the show, family. Please like and share the show. I guarantee this is going to be definitely an informative interview. This brother here, man, is a very intellectual brother. He has various publications, which we're going to talk about those publications. So please share the show. With people that you think that may be interested in this information. Yeah, man. So the first two questions, Maat Ra, is the first two questions are, I ask everybody that comes on author's perspective is, ask the author to introduce themselves. Well, Lord, I already did that. What is some of your favorite from some of your favorite authors, brother Maat Ra?
I would have to say, hard to ignore the classics. I always like, Shikanda Diop, Theo Bafalo Benga, Jean-Claude Mboli. We have a lot of great scholars. We can go on and within our house. I'm impressed with your works. Congratulations, Brother Sean, on what COVID taught me. I'm proud of what we have within the confines of our own research team with the various scholars.
No doubt. So, and I know your name. I want you to break your name down for a man. I know a lot of people that come on here, man, they have a meaning behind their name. When most people take on an African name or a name that's connected to that continent that we call in Africa, we know within those ethnic groups, those names actually mean something. So could you break down, man, for people that may not know what Maat Ra, what Maat means?
Right. For me, the way I constructed my name was not a formal way, by way of initiation. It was the three principal letters that I just took a liking to and what they stood for on the most fundamental level. So when we look at the deity Amen, or Eman as it's transliterated, you have the more popular notion of it being the hidden aspect of creator. But when you look at the actual terms through paronyming that it shares, you see that the term Amen is based on the hand and actions that can be done with the hand. So I always thought the concept of a deity that was based off of the effort that an individual or the community could come together and do, I thought that out trumps something more supernatural or something outside. And then with Maat, we have, the fundamental principles of governing yourself and balance and reciprocity. And then Maat, you also have the connections with the term of Tepesed. It has the same association with correct methodology, correct management. and things of this nature, accurate measure. And then with Ra being the sun, that being the most famous of the Neteru. So those principles, it's like the way I came up with the name, it was more akin to what you would see like with the Wu-Tang Clan do. With like you see certain movies and things of this nature that always captured your imagination, even as a child. So before I started studying Kemet, those were like fundamental principles and deities I saw that always caught my attention. So I retained that for the my pen name.
Okay, no doubt. I like how you broke that down too, man. So man, how long, man? How long you been writing, man? What first, man, what got you into writing, man? And then how long you been writing?
God, I would say I've been writing for about 10 years now. And then what got me writing was honestly college, just feeling underserved. I remember sitting in classes, whether it be psychology, no matter what the class would be, you know, the classical arts, when you get into art history, science, whatever it may be, I just felt underserved and that our story wasn't told. And I remember one time it was just in a basic arts education class or whatever. And the professor and I were going in it was a positive back and forth. There was no malice or anything like that. But, you know, when we started going back and forth, we were talking about Kemet and everything. And she was like, you know what, you know, if you have such strong opinions, you know, she was like, you know, I know this is going to come off sarcastic, but, you know, you really need to put it to paper and present it and do it right. You know, like if you're going to have a debate, you need to learn how to put it to paper and present it. And at first I was like, you know, it almost felt sarcastic. It was positive or whatever. But in the back of my mind, I started thinking like, well, if I do want to see some type of change, or if I want to see a change in the curriculum, even if it's on just the basic level, you know, I'm going to have to put in the work and then present it. So I can just, you know, move from being a spectator to participating and trying to move the needle and just getting out some of these great works of all these great authors and Native African scholars that we have. So that was one of the main things, was just the experience I felt in school was just similar to the classic Dead Prez albums. With Dead Schools, you don't feel like there's a place for African Americans and African spirituality, or Kimoyo, as we would say. So that inspired me to go on that journey.
No doubt, no doubt. So, man, your process, like I try to make this, like I told you, I try to make the interview so how I kind of word and ask the question, man, because again, I try to make this a process, because the goal is to make, you know, more authors, right? So, your process, man, I want to, you know, talk about your process, man. What is I'm in my art process. So when you getting ready to start putting your book and stuff together, because again, you know, like I'm saying, I want you to share that process, because, you know, your process or your steps that you take in order to put your publications together may help somebody else out, you know, with how, you know, they may have to go about putting a book together. I know we all have different processes, and I ask everybody that comes to Author Perspective about that. And, you know, some of the processes, some of our processes are the same, and some of our processes are a little bit different when we get ready to go into trying to put together a publication for the people. So, man, what that process what that process look like for you, Amirah?
Well, it starts out, you know, I'm old school, so I like putting the pen to the pad. So I like sketching it out. But then after that, besides just the fundamental writing process, I think the most important thing is your vision. And that starts with the format and the size of the book that you want to create. So are you going to go with a small pamphlet size, a larger book, or do you want the size and proportions of more of a collegiate style text or whatnot? So I found that to be the most important, because if you lean more to a visual person and you want to include a lot of various mixed media, images, primary sources, things of this nature, the smaller format books will not do your pictures justice. Whereas the text and the grandeur of the images or the various spiritual concepts or cultures that you want to portray in image, you'll lose a certain level of essence of that if the formatting isn't proper. And then you also want to think, another thing I think of is, I want to, if you're dealing with something cultural or Kimoyo, spiritual traditions, I think it should be easy on the eyes as possible, meaning your font and lettering size should be to the point where even if someone has glasses, they don't have to struggle in natural light to read it or just muted light. So that's, believe it or not, that helps me find my rhythm. Once I decide like what style I'm going with, I know if I know that I'm going to be more visual and have a lot more images and things, then I get my format together. And then from there, then I can start building up concepts with sources, fact checking, things of this nature. But for me, for some reason, developing the picture frame, for me, that's the most important thing for me, because it keeps me in check. It gives me parameters. It gives me an idea of what style I want to go with.
Okay, I like that, man. Now you broke that down, so I hope people are listening to what you said. You talked about what the imagining what the book gonna look like. What style you're gonna use for the book. The font. You talked about the font, which is important, and which is definitely is something that we definitely been learning from the font is, you want that font to be, you don't want it to be too big, but you want it to be where it's readable, where it's not, it's good on the eyes. Exactly. And, we definitely been learning from that, because our font's been kind of a little smaller. It's kind of hard on. I'm already blind, so it's good for me, man, to write in that style font. So I hope everybody kind of took taking some notes, man, on the process and the steps and the measures that he's taken in order to put his publication out. Let me see. Now, are you, and you already said it, but I'll put it back out there again. Are you self-published or you went through a publishing company?
I went through a publishing. I'm with the Amazon Kindle. In the future, I look forward to doing a project with you and releasing with family.
Oh, no doubt. We got you, man. We got you. So, and real quick, I want to touch on this, man. He self-published his book. He went through KDP. We talked about KDP before. KDP is you could say is the site that we actually use to actually publish the book, KDP Amazon, that we go through. Well, we were going through to publish the book. And when we talk about KDP, we're talking about, I want to mention again, when you trying to get on these different marketplaces, right? These different marketplaces, if you don't sell your intellectual property, that's why first I want to stress out that if you're trying to buy something and you're interested in a person and his publications, we're asking, that we always try to push to go directly to the author. If the author can't provide you with the publication at that time, then go to the various marketplaces that he has his book. But it's important to patronize the author so he can get his 100%, at least get almost 100% of his intellectual property. Because when you're talking about KDP and these other sites that we break down, we'll just deal with KDP. KDP is you get a 60-40 split, meaning that KDP, Amazon get 60% and you get 40% of your work. And again, I reiterate, I say it's not a 60-40 split, because once they get a 60% of your sales and you get 40% of your sales, but then you also have to pay KDP for your author's copy, which is decent to get your author's copy. So I advise people that goes through those marketplaces to don't push people towards those marketplaces, push those people toward the author or the author's website, if the author can provide you with a website, because again, if you're trying to support these authors, you want the authors to get as much as possible of his intellectual property. And I wanted to talk real quick before we go on, because I wanted to throw that out as a learning lesson too, to patronize the author. And a lot of times, because everything, 40%, you get 40% of your intellectual property. They get 60%, you get 40%. Then not only that, you have to pay for your author's copies. So that's why we tell you it's important, if you're going to support these people and back these people and believe in these people's works, then you have to patronize them. They are the one that actually produced the book, but they have to go through these other various sites in order to actually get the book published and printed, or get the book printed, you know what I'm saying, so they can actually sell their book. So it is, you know, and that's just one. We can talk about Lulu, we can talk about Barnes and Nobles, we can talk about Target, we can talk about Ingram, we can talk about a lot of these other marketplaces that are out there, and a lot of it is just for bragging rights. But, you know, and it's very important too to also own your ISBN number. When you're self-publishing, even when you're self-publishing, if you're self-publishing or whether you're going through a publishing company, you always want to use that industrial standard book number. When you own your own book, your own ISBN, then if you want to get in those other different marketplaces, you're able to get in those other different marketplaces because you own your own ISBN number. When you go through a KDP or Lulu or Target, if you go directly through them and publish directly through them, and you use a free ISBN number, that free ISBN number is only going to limit you to whatever site that you went to in order to publish your book. So you have to, buy your own and own your own ISBN number. That's if you want to get your books in the different stores, different marketplaces. If you want to even get your book in the libraries, they're not going to look at it. And that's some things that we had to take in consideration, because we did the same thing in the beginning, was getting free ISBN numbers. We have our book in the library in Africa, but we was trying to get the books in a library in Cleveland and other places, but we wasn't able to accomplish that because Amazon restricts us from that, because we didn't buy it. Amazon provided the ISBN number. So with them providing that ISBN number, there is parameters. Those people are not going to actually take us serious enough, because we don't own our ISBN numbers, and those ISBNs, KDP restrict us from getting on those other marketplaces in a sense, because we don't own our ISBN number. Brother Amirah, you got, and I meant to get those books off the shelf, and probably I get the books off the shelf because I always try to show each person that comes on, I support each author. So every publication that you got out, I got every last one of your publications. I try, when I bring people on, I try to, if I don't have them, I try to at least get, and they got various ones, I try to get at least 2 of the publications before I actually, interview those authors, just to let them know that, I am supporting. I'm just not bringing you on to talk about your book, but I'm definitely going to support you. And I'm gonna probably go get all of them off the shelf. But you got 5 publications out right now, if I'm correct. Roman Illusion, Volume 1, Exploring the African Origin of Christianity. Volume 2, Roman Illusion, Volume 2, Exploring the African Origin of Judaism. The Roman Illusion, Volume 3, Exploring the Hidden Origin of Islam. You have the Amirah Illusion, Volume 1, focus on honoring the ancestors, veneration. Oh man. Wait, okay. Name the other one is Amirah Illumination Volume 2, right?
Right. Yep. Because the Roman Illusion was a 3-volume series, and then the Amirah Illumination is the 2-volume series.
Right. And I've read 4 of your books. I hadn't read the last publication. I looked into it, but I hadn't dug into it. But
now, I know your crates are deep with books, with what you're doing for your publications and everything that you put. You know how we do in our research team.
Mm-hmm.
It's relentless.
Yeah. And all those books are, man, some great reads, man, especially those Roman Illusions. Those helped me out in the beginning. Helped me definitely out in the beginning. I know around 2015, I think that's when I bought, it was either 2015, 2014 when I bought those Roman Illusion volumes that you had. And I read those. I read the Islam one.
Yep, that was volume 3.
Yeah,
I definitely appreciate you.
Yeah, I read those twice. The Christianity and the Islam, I read those twice, and I only read the Judaism once, and I read the Roman illusion. I actually used, I think, some of your work in one of my publications. Might have been the very first spear map, spears of the Mossi. I think
I have to go check. I got that. It's in my stack somewhere. I had to grab it. But I got that one. I have to go look through.
Okay, but let's talk about the various publications, and we also want to mention your new publication that you got coming soon. But let's talk about Roman Illusions, Volume 1, Exploring the African Origin of Christianity. Volume 1. Can you kind of explain, first, what got you interested in actually wanting to write about the origins of Christianity? Well, you can talk about that and just, talk about briefly about the book, man, for people that might not that have the book.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So with me, it was easy because, being in the Midwest, that's the Bible Belt. So, I came up surrounded by a Southern Baptist surrounding. I had people around me that were in different traditional practices too, but for the most part, everything that was around me coming up, junior high, high school, was centered around Abrahamic tradition. So if you weren't Christian, you were Jewish, or you're dealing with Islam. As I got older, starting junior high through high school, I was, curious. I wanted to absorb as much information as possible. So, I studied with Christians. It didn't feel fulfilling to me. So I studied with Hebrew Israelites and the Nation of Islam and traditional Muslims. And then, one thing I started knowing was a reoccurring themes. It was just basically like this 3-headed monster that was attached to one body. And this one body controlled, whole nations of people that it had no native or indigenous connection with. So even though I included in my title, the African origins, the main emphasis is that it's a foreign entity. It has similarities, connections, or whatever, but it is something that was, it's a foreign entity that we should be aware of. And then some of the contradictions, the mythological concepts, mythological characters that are presented as historical figures with no genetic data, no mausoleum, no archaeological evidence, no actual firsthand primary attestations of the existence of primary characters and messiahs and saviors. So just as they were on the streets nonstop, day in, day out, whether it be Jehovah's Witnesses or Hebrew Israelites, they were on the streets promoting their views, their dogma, their mythological characters, and what they thought was important for us to learn. And as I started looking at it, it wasn't fulfilling. So I had to go do the due diligence and research to present just small, easy to read pamphlets of why there are other alternatives to look within, traditional African practices, Kimoyo, what our ancestors did, what we did from, a diasporic perspective. So those books were very simple and easy to read and everything. So that's the main gist of the 3 volumes. And then with the Amirah Illumination, the focus is more on Kemet, Medu Neter, the hieroglyphic script and related languages and things of this nature, traditions and basic fundamental rituals.
No doubt, man. Like I said, man, it's great. And you said a pamphlet, man. It's not a pamphlet. I think the volume 1, you had what, 200 some pages?
Yeah, it's about 200. That was decent.
Yeah, 200 something. That's not no pamphlet, man. Shoot, a pamphlet is what, 40 pages. That's a pamphlet.
Good point, right? But
yeah, you got 200 some pages in that book, man. So Roman Illusions, Volume 2, Exploring the African Origin of Judaism, man. Kind of talk to us about that publication as well.
That was another thing, is just trying to figure out where you can find actual historical or genetic data to validate or prove the existence of a historical Moses that existed in Kemet, supposedly. No primary attestations. Even in the actual text, there's no mention of a specific Nisu Bidi or king or pharaoh that acknowledges the existence of these characters, the lack of proof of a biblical exodus and things of this nature. So a lot of the the fundamental features that the Judaic ethic presents to us as its claim to being God's chosen children, trying to validate this, and the issues you find with not being able to prove that these historical characters or patriarchs even existed. So that one was one of my smaller works. So it carried on the same tradition of how do you take a myth and turn it into a historical identity and personality that you can literally sway the whole opinion, the culture of a nation with. So those were some of the fundamental questions I was asking of, the danger of taking a mythological character and presenting it and moving the population, swaying the population's opinion on certain issues and things of this nature, and just how they conduct themselves and interact as a family unit. Your views towards women and everything, things of this nature. So that was the whole, the totality of the Roman Illusion series or whatever. It's just how all three of these Abrahamic faiths are, the foundation is based off of mythological characters that we can find no archaeological proof, no genetic data, no firsthand primary attestations at the time periods that these particular messiahs and prophets were allegedly supposed to be existing and alive and interacting with humans.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me how all of them all bump heads with each other, and they got the same players on the same team. I don't understand it.
And they go from one jail cell to the next jail cell, and they think it's a separate, and it's not.
Right. I just don't understand that. Like, how can y'all fight each other and the same players is on the same team? Y'all talking about the same characters. And again, like you say, you can't verify none of these individuals' existence. These kings, these patrons, these
King Solomon's
and right.
The only thing, and I know in each of the 3 volumes, the only thing that we can validate without a shadow of a doubt is their cooperation in the kidnapping and informal African slave trade. We can validate the support for that.
Yeah, you're right. And let's Roman Illusion, Volume 3, exploring the hidden origins of Islam. And this in here, I ain't gonna even front. This volume was my favorite volume out of all of them. I read, like I said, I read all 3, but I read the Volume 1 twice. I read Volume 3 twice, and I only read Volume 2 once. And I read all of those within the same year. It either was 14 or it was either 15. I think it might have been like 15. And I used, and what was so crazy was I used some of your information on a Muslim that actually came to my house. It was crazy. A Muslim actually came to my house. I don't know. He was, I don't know, was he selling something? I don't know what it was, but he came to my house. So he was trying to get me. No, he was actually trying to get me to go to the mosque, the subdivision I stayed in. If you went up the street and made a block, they had built a new mosque over there, right where I used to get my haircut. Matter of fact, right across the street from where I used to get my haircut when I lived in Hattiesburg. And they was inviting me to actually come to the mosque. And at that time, I was like really, really, really anti-Western religion. I didn't want to have no conversations. And this was early. I'm gonna have to say this might have been either 14 or 15 or late 14, early 15. I can't remember, but it was like I had just became conscious in 2000, and I'm gonna say, we like to say we began to become conscious. I just say I became aware in late 2012, going in the top of 2013. So I was still trying to understand everything. So I started reading everything. I started, trying to understand the Muslims, trying to understand more about Christianity, even though I was heavy entrenched in Christianity. I was trying to understand Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Hebrew Israelites, trying to understand the Moors. So I was all over the place, but I was just anti-religion, Western religion. I was just anti that, want to have no conversation, no dealing with it. And then when you bring it to me, I'm finna bring you the business. So anyway, we ended up having a conversation, and I ended up using some of the information in your book, and it might have been about the what is that, the Kaaba? What is that?
That Kaaba stone.
Yeah, the Kaaba stone. We got to talking about that, and man, there was some other stuff. And I actually used your book, and I used Walter Williams. Walter Williams also, I read his works. Might have been around the same time, early 14. He has one about Christianity, and he has one about Islam. So I was using his stuff as well, comparing, where he was talking about who actually was the Prophet Muhammad, and so forth. So man, we just had into having a conversation, man, and that dude ended up leaving, and I didn't have to worry about him coming back down on my street in that subdivision to knock on my door to to ask me to actually come to the mosque. And by the way, I was rude to the brother, man.
It's like that sometimes.
And like I'm saying, and that's with everybody. Anytime you begin, and I know everybody that becomes aware or becomes conscious, they are angry. They are angry in the beginning. So they are angry toward everybody, and then they come off aggressive, and I've been lied to my whole life, so I understand, and that's where I was at that time. I was very aggressive. What up, Chef? What up, Chef? And I appreciate Walter Williams' book, both of Walter Williams' book. The only thing I didn't appreciate in Walter Williams' book, in volume 1, he says that the meta nectar has not been deciphered, which
completely false.
Right, which is completely false. And he was using Maat Hotep at that time, and he was using, and I forgot what he actually said Maat Hotep meaning. It was in 2 other terms that he used a lot within both of those books. And I'm like, he's using the meta nectar, but he's saying, and then he's telling you and explaining you what it means. But then when you get to the back of the book, he's saying that the meta nectar has not been deciphered. So I'm like, I'm scratching my head. I'm like, this crazy. And we ended up putting out a book. The Seshu group ended up putting out a book called
Has the meta nectar been deciphered?
A rebuttal to Walter Williams. We actually even sent the brother a copy of the book, and it was a video where he actually briefly speak about it on the book, but he's still staying in his position that the meta nectar has not been deciphered. But besides that, those 2 volumes are great books. Where he breaks down a lot of stuff within that book. So, I had to give it up to the elder man, Majuba Ibe, to the elder man, Majuba Ibe, man, to Walter Williams, man. I had to give him honor and praises, because that was at that time for me an excellent book, and it's still for people in the beginning if they want to learn about history, about Christianity and Islam. Those are definitely 2 books, as well as all 3 of your Roman illusion books, because they are easy reads. And that's the thing too, man, is, easy reads. You're putting together publications that are actually easy to read. It's not going over people's head. And that would draw me into it was an easy read. It was very easy to digest. It was easy to comprehend. A few of the things I might have had to go and do some research on and look up, man. But for the most part, it was easy. It was very easy to digest, man. So those books. So talk about the Roman illusions, man, while we talking about that. Roman Illusion Volume 3, The Hidden Origins of Islam, man.
So in a lot of it, I talk about some of how your fundamental features like that Mecca, things of this nature, the famous footsteps. I almost need the information in front of me so I could go over the pictures. I wrote that book years ago. So in it, I just show where some of the pilgrimage sites and some of the traditions were taken from cultures that were already there and things of this nature. So I give a step-by-step with various illustrations and everything. So people can get a fundamental understanding, even how some of the terms from earlier Christianity were adopted, like how you have in Syriac the language of Syriac or whatever, you see in Syriac Christianity, in counts of the Peshitta and things of this nature, you see Christian terms that were adopted like Iman. And even like when you look at the name Muhammad, like when you look in Syriac, Muhammad, where you see that name stem from, in Syriac Christianity, Muhammad means a believer, a follower of Christianity. So even in your term Iman, you see parallels in Christianity of these same concepts. Even in some of the garbs that you see worn, when you look at Nestorian nuns from earlier centuries, the Nestorian nuns and their sisterhoods, and you look at the hijabs and what you see in Orthodox Islam today, and you'll see striking similarities. So you can see during like the Nestorian period and periods of this nature, your earlier 1800s, things of this nature and before, you can see how aesthetically Christianity set the standard for Islam, and it became the Arabic expression of what the Vatican was presenting or what Europe was presenting. But it's still just this three-headed beast emanating from the same spots. And even, like I said, your pilgrimages with Mecca, a lot of your features, your famous pilgrimage and symbolism was adopted from cultures already there. And that's a matter of fact, if I had time, I'd have to grab that copy so I could hold up some of the pictures and everything without.
Yeah, I'm gonna run and go get the books off the shelf in a minute, man, because I meant to, like, before we started, I meant to get them and bring them over here and send them.
I had to go grab real quick because I follow by your model. As I learn, we learn. So all of those volumes that you've had that you got several years ago, I revised all of them.
Right, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Like, okay, you started. Like and I remember when we was talking, I remember you was talking about you was gonna revise all of them. And I think one of them might have been one we gonna talk about in a minute. I think you actually referenced us in that book when you updated, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I think that was
huh? Yeah, it should be in there because after this next publication, I'll be featuring you several times when I start bringing some small lessons of Kimoyo.
Yeah, and so. I see you had, and I see it's almost kind of like around the same time but it doesn't show I understand once you update a book, it actually starts wherever when you update it. If you put a book out a year ago and it's in 2013 of September, and then you update it March of of the next year, then it's gonna go with the update date. So it has, and you can it has September 2014, volume 1, 2014, volume 2, and what volume 3? I didn't even put it on here. But I think it might have been 14 too, if I'm not mistaken. And that is all from updates.
Yeah, because matter of fact, I'm gonna grab volume 3. It's right here. Just give me 1 second, just so we can speak on that so people understand.
Right. Go right ahead. But yeah, and Sheffrin, that Islam, man, that one was pretty good too, bro. That was a pretty nice book as well. I read those books several times, man, back in the day. Walter Williams book, man. I think it was around like 2014.
All right, I'm back. I'm glad you brought that up. I should have had this. That's a great, because and sometimes when formats change, here's for new publishers, you may do a book cover that you may like a lot. The formatting may be perfect, font, size, everything. However, if there's a specific update, you may not be able to have your book printed the same way if you're relying on a factory setting. And that's what I like to do. Excuse me. I was powering up them steps.
You good?
So that's what was important, because sometimes, like volume 3, like if you see this one, this is more of a burgundy stock in the source. This is a primary source image from Arabic text. However, the formatting offered to do it yourself, because depending on what publishing group you're with, you can have formats where you can do it yourself, or you can pay them more, or you can go to like Brother Kofi's business, and then they can do covers, logos, things of this nature for you. So you got plenty of options, but you know, I like to have my hands on, so I had to change. But when I did my last update, I went with a different feature. This is the newest version.
Right. I seen that the other day, man. I'm like, I got the first one you hold up, and then you revise it. You put a different color on. I mean, a different style and a different color. Well, a different image and color on the book.
Yep, all together.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one's been revised, and this one, the chapter that I had, the Amirah Illumination on the Moors. I revised that, put this in here, plus some of my different sources and everything. So I try, as I get more information, I try to share that with the people for the same price. So, you know, you can see this continuation, because I think, especially with this being an author's corner, I think the most important thing that we can convey is, if you want to be a successful author or have an author with any level of credibility, of respect, you have got to let go of your confirmation biases. You don't know it all. You never will. Even if you think you're an expert, professional, master teacher, spiritualist, you channel all your informations from the ether. You can travel to Venus and in outer ethereal realms and talk to deceased spirits. You're still going to make mistakes. You're going to miscite sources. New information will come. Greater scholars will come forward, and information that was set forth by our elders, they will come forward and push it forward. And in that process, some of it you're going to have to let go. You're just going to have to give it up. It's outdated, it's wrong, it's inaccurate. It doesn't mean that the person you got your source from is wrong. It just means that you have to grow up, deal with it, and move forward. And be transparent with your audience. Be humble. I made a mistake. New information came out. I did not fully understand the data, or I had a hypothesis that has been disproven over time. It may be your favorite teacher. It may be somebody that you're close to. You have to let that go. And in order to respect that author, like when authors are presented with information, no matter how young, old, middle-aged, whatever it may be, you have to be able to deal with that. You have to be able to humble yourself as an author, as a researcher, and let go of old information, especially if a specific advanced scientific method was not available. Like at one point in time in archaeology, people would just compare cranial sizes, nasal cavity, things of this nature or whatever. But then the human genome was, developed and fully understood. So new information and new insights came from that. The people that came before that, before the human genome was mapped, they played their part. And then the next scholars, the next scientists, they came forward to build on top of that. But sometimes in order to build, you got to clean house. There's trash to take out. You can't take that personal. And a confirmation bias will ruin you as an author, because you will be so busy worshiping personalities, trying to impress certain communities or certain groups, be they spiritual groups, academic groups, that you cannot grow as a person and you lose your integrity. And there is nothing worse in life than to be around somebody that is constantly making mistakes and they can't take accountability for it. They can point out what's wrong with you. Like when we have medical debates. Oh, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. How much research have you done in the medical field? What is your opinion on this? Have you checked the sources? And if you form an ideal and you come up with qualified sources that say otherwise, can you accept that? And I think that's the most important thing to convey on Author's Corner, is that you cannot worship a personality. You will go nowhere with that, because you will never be any greater or bring more to the table than the personality that you worship. And whatever pitfalls and shortcomings the personality that you worship or the source that you only rely on blindly, you will take on those limitations and you will become a cancer and a problem and hold back progress. So I think that is a very important thing to note, is character, and being able to admit that, hey, this information is outdated.
Go ahead, Sean. Sean had this. You had something, Sean? I didn't see your hand, man.
My hand had been up, man, but I didn't want to interrupt the brother while he was sitting there saying what he was saying. Shoot. I'm all right, right.
Sorry, brother Sean. Peace.
You good, brother. Nah, you ain't, this is your show. I just got a question for you. All right, so you had mentioned about character, like integrity, as far as academic, and let's call it academic integrity, right? Because that's basically what it is in scholarship.
Yes.
Okay, and you talk about as information changes, you have to be humble enough to change some things in your information as it presents itself, and you have to update it, right?
Yes.
So what? And you're telling people that they need to do this because it's the right thing to do. So but what if someone is really married to the misinformation? Then how would you approach that person that marries the information, and you know that this information isn't correct? What's the Amirah approach?
Usually with me, sometimes the indirect, when you take the side street. So sometimes you have to line up the sources, and you have to go step by step, not systematically, because a lot of times the attachment is emotional. So sometimes you would have to come with a layering of sources leisurely. So if somebody is holding on to their mind, or even whether it be a spiritual concept, or whether it be about, like, with what we're dealing with the pandemic, sometimes you're just gonna have to constantly layer the information and lay it out so that you can see where their claims and the evidence lay out. I found that if you go extremely slow with the evidence, with the foundation or the core root of what they fear of losing, or why this argument is so important to them, that's usually the first thing I like to know. If there's some type of debate with methodology, is what actual attachment do you have to this person? What actual attachment do you have to this belief? And what people can present systematic evidence and proof to convince you? Because a lot of times, if you can get people to and just subtly investigate what they blindly invested in, that can save you some trouble. Because if you I found that if people are worshiping personalities, or there's something that they're scared of, no matter what you present to them, there's always going to be some scarecrow argument. So I found that if you could just find their comment go like, why do you feel this is so important that you should never bend or change your point of view? It's almost like if you have to use the example. Imagine, you're going to work. You take the same highway, the same back road every day. But this particular day, there's a wreck. The road is blocked. You can no longer travel this road. You used to travel this road up and down. You cannot travel this road because this road is no longer safe to travel. You will not get to your destination. So you have to be able to be in a position to make people comfortable with, slightly going off course and showing them that there's an end game to this that's not personal. And I think sometimes that people, if their ideas are proven to be wrong, they feel that later you're going to come and assassinate their character and say that they're incompetent or that they're lesser of a person. So a lot of times the pushback that you'll get, especially that what we'll get as African-American males, is that if you present information and it goes contrary, there's almost a certain expectation for you to bow down. You're supposed to be part of the clique. You're not supposed to be stepping outside of that. So sometimes that becomes part of the hive mentality, peer pressure. So the fact that you're getting pushback is a good thing. I think first and foremost, you encourage people to come up to your level so they can do the work, because you don't want to go down too low and encourage laziness. So the fact that you can shake up somebody, I honestly think that's a good thing, because at least that they're open. They know that there's at least a conflict in what they're thinking. And I think the way that you're doing it is great, because you're giving primary sources. But, to me, you got to be consistent. Just as they're consistent with promoting false information, you have to be consistent with just subtle counterpoints. and then you can build up from that. Because if you can get a common ground on a basic disagreement, then you can start climbing up the ladder, as opposed to just all out this tug of war. Because I know that people that fall into pseudoscience, it's information that makes them feel comfortable, and they can go around their friends and their family, and they can sound intelligent, they can sound cool without any accountability. And whenever they're scrutinized, there's no accountability, there's no sources. So you can always seem like you're smarter, you're learning more, you're pulling it from the ether or whatever. So there's a certain level of ego that you're going to have to fight, because their ability to freestyle and ad lib, to them, they think that there's a level of greatness in that. So they've taken science and reduced it to some type of almost immature art that you would expect 8-year-olds to be going through with this tug of war. Hopefully I wasn't too long and drawn out, and that made some sense.
Nah, I got a follow up. So what do you say about the people who think that the correction you're providing or the update of information that you're providing isn't worthy or deemed worthy, or you're put in a position to seem like you're always trying to correct somebody else's information?
Good point. First, I would usually how I catch people is they need to show me that they actually have a standard for the information that they present to me. So usually before I wouldn't even approach them in a confrontational way. I would come to them almost like a 6-year-old curious, like, okay, you gave me your stance. Could you please give me a source so I can better understand this? Sometimes you can kill them with kindness. Like, wow, this is very interesting. In the back of your mind, you know that this is false information, it's misguided, and in a lot of cases, it's just reckless information that was made up. So, and when situations like that, I usually try to get the sources from the people. So while they think that they're teaching you, they can hear themselves sound how unorganized their thought process is, how they themselves have no level of true standard for the information that they embrace. And in a lot of instances, you'll get them to trip up and just submit the TikTok videos and YouTube 3-minute clips and whatnot that they have, because there's a attention span. So another issue you're dealing with in our community is short attention span. So a lot of what you're presenting to them is causing them to step out and relearn just basic reading comprehension. Different terms you never saw. Like when you start talking about viruses and pathology and things of this nature, the most basic fundamental things you thought about, you have to reinvest, because a lot of us think that you can just eat a couple pieces of fruit. I can just make a smoothie. I can take a banana, some strawberries and kiwi, and I can trigger an immune response. So when you're going against common folk beliefs, that's just, many people think that they have a scientific understanding, but it's just casual talk. And it's not loose. So you're bringing a rigid structure to people who are used to just ad-libbing and making up things that sound good, or old information that they were brought up with. So they feel that if you have who they deem to be a master teacher that wrote a text in 1985, and they're talking about health, or they're talking about a medical issue or something, sometimes people hold on to that personality so much that when you talk to them, they almost feel that you're attacking a family member or a loved one, or you're trying to, so that's something that you're dealing with, because now you're trying to fight somebody's ego as opposed to the information. But I think what you're doing is correct. You have to keep submitting the sources, and as many different sources, various studies, cohort studies, meta-analysis, things of this nature or whatever, the whole pyramid of research. And I think you do a good job of that. So I would say the best thing to do is just to, as they try to ignore you, take another step up the research pyramid, longitudinal studies, things of this nature and everything. And I think slowly but surely, as they start to see that the views, and in particular the information that you're sharing, is not made up and everything, and that we should be at a point where we should appreciate our young daughters and our young sons for working hard to go to college, to go to Ivy League schools, to become scientists. Many of them are African American too. We need to have faith in that hard work that they put in. Nothing is flawless. We know that science has its flaws or whatever, but we need to set a higher standard for ourselves. And once we do that, once we send out our daughters and our sons to participate in STEM, science, technology, engineering, all of these things, we need to respect that and not condemn scientific minds for doing what they're supposed to do, which is to maintain the infrastructure, make sure that we're healthy and we're progressing. And we need to embrace that. And in our community, the people that work hard to sacrifice and attain a certain level of status in the fields of science, they're castigated, they're frowned upon, they're thought of as being arrogant, or you're talking down to somebody. And that's something that we have to move past. So when you're talking to people like that, some of what you're dealing with is maturity issues. And that's something all into itself. And that'll trigger somebody, and then the bad character will come back. Because usually if you give great information, they want to fight it, they're going to assassinate your character. Mm-hmm. with arguments that have nothing to do with anything. So if you're trying to present information and you start hearing, well, I heard you said this, I heard you did, what about your personality? What about this? And everything but the initial argument, now you're dealing with somebody that's just so invested in their ego and promoting this image of, although I'm not a master teacher, I've had these 2 books, I've watched about 45 minutes of TikTok videos, and now I'm somehow in a position to debate. And a lot of people, they want to do that. They'll take 1 or 2 things and they'll run with it and try to beat people down over the head. If you don't believe there's pseudo, false, unsubstantiated ideas, they will talk about you like a dog, Brother Sean. You ain't this. The problem with you is you all on this fake science stuff. The reason you don't know nothing is because your crown chakra ain't activated. Your kundalini's messed up and yada, 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 yada. So it becomes a real problem when people can't deal with reality. The first thing they'll hit you with, they'll either take a cheap shot or they'll take you to Never Never Land in an ethereal place that only 6-dimensional beings can exist in and perceive. So you're climbing up a huge mountain, Brother Sean, a huge one. But I think that you have to keep when they try to go astray, Tep has said, correct methodology. When they come up with an excuse, Tep has said, correct methodology. And you go deeper into the protocols, deeper into the various studies and who, what, where, and why. Because a lot of time, another cop out is that it becomes, if the information is presented to them and it's a European or a white American, that becomes a deflection. Because a lot of times, like when we deal with science, most people don't know that science is universal, especially based on empirical evidence. And you know what I'm saying? So we're dealing with the uphill struggle because a lot of times a person's understanding of science and, you know, the replication crisis and things of this nature, it just does not mesh with the real world. So I think what you're doing is right and exact. We have to steadfast with correct methodology because that's the only way to combat this. Because when people know that they don't want to change, the first thing they'll try to do is shame you, insult you, and make you feel guilty so you can fall back into the fold and they can be comfortable. And in many cases, this is how a lot of people make money, is by lying and promoting pseudoscientific information. You have a lot of people that are making money off of fake, bogus herbal concoctions and pills and herbs and so-called vitamin supplements, presenting them as cures and basically snake oil. So you also have to remember that the minute you start talking about this, you could be messing with somebody's, you know, financial stability, because, you know, this is how they pay bills, is by swindling people and promoting false information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I commend you, man, for, you know, what you're saying with the updates. You know, that's good character when you can, when you can, well, I'll just say this: when you talked about, and that's what I be having issues with people when they be bashing like publications that might have been out 30 years ago. You know, you hear people talking about, I seen somebody was talking about Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark. I threw John Henry Clark in there, but I mean, there's various others as well, you know, and you have to look at, my thing is like, you have to look at the time period that they was written in. Like you talked about the skull and, you know, how they was using the skull at one point in time and then went to using something else when another method came out. You know, so we have to take that in accountability too, that the time period that those things are written in, and then science is always updating. It's always updating. So we got to take that, we have to keep that in mind as well, man. So, you know, when someone like what we're doing now, we're writing something, that's something that may have not been discovered. There may be some technology that may be able to enhance future findings, or something dealing with the genome, or whatever it may be that this may not be invented, that may come along later, that may speed up the process, the scientific process later on, or some things that we may have missed because we wasn't available to this technology at this particular time. So somebody gonna have to come behind us and update our works if we not here when those things come into come about. And you know, I agree with you what you were saying about there's a lot of people. So I'm gonna ask you this, and then we'll move on to. So are you saying, because you're not I don't know if you're saying this or not, but it seems like that's what you're saying. And if you are, you're not the only person I've heard say this, that these people know that they are pushing misinformation. Is that what you're saying? But they know that this misinformation is a moneymaker. So then this is their livelihood. So they're going to continue to stand on the pseudoscience and push this information in order to keep their pockets in line, you know what I'm saying, in order to take care of their family, or, you know, take care of their habits, or whatever it may be. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and if you look at it from an entertainment standpoint, we almost have to respect that, because if you're trying to think about it, you're trying to do a good sci-fi series, a good cliff, and you always need you got to end the season with a suspense, so you can come back with a new monster, a new superhero, a new antagonist. A lot of what they're doing is almost similar to what you see in the Marvel universe. There's always some bigger and badder villain with all these, you know, this fake spectacle behind them. And a lot of that is what you're seeing is their showmanship. So by staying rooted in pseudoscience, astronomy will keep us confined and rooted to a certain methodology that is scientific and grounded in what's real. Astrology will allow you free reign of every dimension, every universe. You can create whatever reality you want to make money. You can look up at the sky. This celestial sphere makes you act like this. This makes you act like that. You find no attestations in
So you don't believe in retrograde, what you say?
No Mercury retrograde. No, and I also don't believe if you experience no werewolves, none of that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of what they talk about sounds like something that would be in a sequel to Blade or something. And you're hunting werewolves in the moonlight, and all of this is just none of that. No chakras in Kemet. No Kundalini. The Pharaoh didn't practice that. You know, it's just so much. And that I think that's a great example, because a lot of people, we're in a situation where people are so anti-scientific and anti-intellectual that when you look at the actual scientific discipline of astronomy, where you're actually gauging, measuring celestial spheres and how they're moving in space, gravitational things that are actually tangible can be gauged, as compared to a lot of times celestial events that don't even exist, manufactured phenomenon that you do not see demonstrated in what we would call the universe. So when you have this juxtaposition of science and an art, that's dangerous, because the art allows you to entertain. But the problem is if you want to keep entertaining and making money, Brother Sean had the best question or whatever. If you're an entertainer, you have to attack the science, because the science disqualifies your fake bogus movie. Your big Hollywood summer blockbuster with mythological creatures and all of that, Neil Tyson Degrassi is not for you. That's not going to work. You're not going to be able to make money like that. And it's not as entertaining. And I think people are going through so much now that real science is boring. It's method to it. It's not sexy. There's nothing sexy about what we do. There's nothing sexy about what Brother Tep has said when he's talking about various cohort studies, as opposed to the weakest evidence, which is firsthand evidence. Like, most people talk about, well, this is an expert and this is expert testimony and he's the expert, and that's some of the weakest evidence in the pyramid. That doesn't out trump a cohort study. It's just, and we have to deal with this. So sometimes a lot of our problem is, if you ever watched the old school comedy CB4 with Chris Rock, Charlie Murphy, and all of that, you had a situation where you had a real brother that grew up in the streets, lived that life, was around that. He represented this lifestyle. He was the thug. He was this grimy character or whatever. And then on the side, you had this other group that watched that. He watched how he moved in the streets with real power, a stand-up man, whether he's a criminal or not. He lived his life. And then you had this fake, artificial, fictitious entity that has no crutch to stand on. Nobody would come and watch them perform. And so they started pretending to be what they claim ultimately that they hated. And that's what I loved about CB4, is because you had the real Gusto, who was this real personality, and then you had these pretenders that could not understand that lifestyle, could not relate to it, had no appreciation for it, but it served one thing: instant gratification. I can get attention off of this. I can come around the group and they'll laugh at me. I can start butt dancing if I talk loud enough. I get flashy enough clothes. I start talking about different star systems that affect me and make me superior to you. Now I got something. I can sell that. But real science and methodology, where you have to sit down and be self-correcting. Today I said 1 + 1 is this. Tomorrow, wait a minute, I made a mistake. I'm going to have to go back and correct this. And you guys are going to have to forgive me. A lot of people don't have the heart for that. That's a backbreaker to a coward. You weak, you spineless, a coward, that breaks a coward. If you look a coward in the face, I'd like you to look me eye to eye. He can't do that, because the only time he wants to look at you eye to eye is when he's stealing everything you stand for, imitating you. Cowards like to imitate. They like to give you an imitation of reality, their imitation. And when that imitation of reality is not marketable and they don't get as many likes, they'll switch to the next thing, and then they'll talk about the next researcher and why they're worthless. So it's a sickening game when you look at how it unfolds.
Yeah, man. That's
people ain't gonna like him. They ain't gonna like her. They ain't gonna like her. He kind of exposing people out here, man. They ain't gonna like all this stuff that he's talking about. Cause I be seeing on his Facebook post, he be kind of breaking people's hearts. When he use that methodology, they be thinking, I guess, you super spiritual, but what about that methodology? You articulating a lot of this very, very, very well.
Thanks, brother. I'm glad we got a chance to build, because people think spirituality to me is the most important art for keeping the community together and organizing with family. But the science, this is what we build with. This is our tools. That's your armor. That's your sword.
Compartmentalize that.
Right. You got to keep that the spiritual sphere. People have to understand that that's a personal space. But this science, this technology, this engineering, this architecture, all of that, this is what we build with. This is how we become Amen. This is how we use our hands. Like when you see the Akhenaten and you see the Aten disc with the hands reaching down, that's Amen. That's us. If we come together with our hands, we can do that. But you can't do that. Harry Potter, that doesn't work. But we can come together and build with this science, with this engineering and proper research methodology. Together, we can come up and piece this together properly. But that's not done with hocus. You can't make this go away with a magic wand. You can't take a magic wand, some fruit juice, and 2 oranges and get rid of a virus. It's just, I wish it would. I wish it was that easy. We could ignore science and deal with a virus, but that's just not how it works. You can't activate your 5th chakra. Even if your heart chakra radiates to the 9th dimension, you can still die of COVID. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. You can eat as much kiwi, squash, salad as you want. A virus will destroy you. That will not trigger an immune response.
So sea moss and bladder rack ain't gonna help me, is what you're saying.
I hate this, brother.
He said that. You don't like it? You don't like it?
That's hurting my I'm lying. I'm messing with y'all. But I actually, not to put I'm trying to put my cousin business out there, but I was at work the other day, and my cousin worked up there, and he came over there to my office, and he asked me, do I know anybody selling sea moss? I said, yeah, I know somebody selling it about £1. I know somebody right now selling it about £1. And that's who I was referring him to. So I was asking him, so why do you need the sea moss? I said, so you know what you see? Well, he said, well, you know, I ain't got vaccinated. I said, cuz you know I got vaccinated. I'm not anti. I said, I'm science. I push scientific literacy. I'm not anti-science. And I said, cuz if you thinking that, and then I told him, in my coming in this thing and coming to work, I used to take bladder and sea moss. I used to buy it and used to mix it up in my smoothies and certain little juicers and stuff that I made or whatever the case may be. I said I used it. But I'm saying, if you thinking that or any herb is going to cure you from not catching this disease called COVID-19, I said, brother, you were sadly mistaken. There is no data on the planet that shows that these herbs that people are talking about is actually curing viruses. There's no evidence on the planet that shows that. So, but if you want the sea moss, I'll connect you with my brother, and he can sell it as much as you want of sea moss to you, but that's not going to stop you from catching the virus. It's just
not just sea moss. I hate to cut you off, but even if you want to add to the sea moss vitamin C with zinc and vitamin D, that won't help either. The vitamin C, the zinc, the vitamin D, you can mix that together too. You throw some strawberries in there too, maybe fresh pineapple.
They got people out here.
It won't help you, bro. It tastes good.
In South America, they out here using bleach.
Man,
they using Trump method. You know, Trump said the same thing.
Literally, but they literally doing that.
Yeah, they literally get people killed. But yeah, but let's get back, man, into the last 2 publications, man. Amirah, I always be trying to pronounce that Amirah illusion. Your book is Amirah. But Amirah Illusion Volume 1, focus on honoring the ancestors, ancestor veneration, and the matriarch of spiritual systems in Kemet, ancient Egypt. Let's talk about that, man. Talk about that book briefly. Like I said, I used some information in that book. I think in one of the publications, I forgot what I actually used, and then I used it a while back here. I used it in maybe I used some stuff out of there, maybe like 2 presentations that I did in the past. Might have been about a year or 2 ago. But yeah, man, talk to us about that Amirah illusion, the focusing on honoring, and I like the name, the honoring of the ancestors. What is it? Honoring ancestors, ancestor veneration?
Yep. Yes, sir. So the inspiration behind that was a well-balanced foundation, whereas I give you spiritual principles, but I wanted them to be welded with scientific principles and observable truths so that you can have an appreciation for the science, the engineering, and some misunderstood things about Kemet. The Amirah Illumination Volume 2, let's see where it is, so you see what it looks like. So in this one, you know, I deal with common stuff. Like, so when we think about the symbol of the Ankh, a lot of times in popular New Age spiritual circles, you'll see associations with the Ankh symbol, and there's always this correlation between the reproductive organs of a man and woman, that it's a joining of the womb, the ovaries, and the man's phallic region. And what I go to do in texts like this is to go to the primary sources, so we can go step by step, go to the temple walls, go to mortuaries, papyrus, and compare New Age concepts or interpretations of the language to the actual language itself on the temple wall. And what we find is that there is no correlation ever in Kemet of the symbol of the Ankh, which is just a life symbol, which more accurately is the thoracic region. So if anything, it's to deal with the actual cellular respiration and the actual breathing process. So what we're looking at is an emphasis on cellular respiration and the act of breathing, the breath of life, as opposed to this overly sexualized Eurocentric Greco-Roman interpretation. Because whenever you deal with New Age religion or anything outside of that, the European interpretations tend to be over-sexualized. There's always this over-sexualization of everything. So a lot of the principles, signs, and symbols of Kemet have been overly mystified and misinterpreted. So a lot of what I wanted to do was to get a real good grounding of the language from my vantage point. And I try to provide a lot of great sources like Wujau and the Seshu crew, so we can get a better understanding of traditional Kemetiu practices from the ancestors themselves by learning how to read and write the language and have a basic understanding of grammar, so we can have a more grounded understanding. And we cannot be misled. And what's liberating about texts like this and learning how to read and write Medu Neter is that you will not fall victim to pseudoscience. You will become to learn to appreciate and learn the difference between astronomy and astrology. Learning the Medu Neter language will show you the pitfalls and the problems you face when you take pseudoscience, emotions, a blind following of basically pimps that are they're selling you something. They want you to go on a stroll for them. They want you to go on a journey for them and bring them back a cut. Learning the language of Kemet, it eliminates all of that. You see the importance of being able to use proper methodology. Even when you use the term Maat, there's a reference to the term Maat, you know, it's pyramid. You know, the language of Kemet was very limited. Lexically, it was very limited as far as the terms, but the metaphors and everything, it was numerous. So what we see was you would have one word, but depending on how the glyphs were spelled in a determinative or a classifier glyph, it would give you a different concept. So this was misunderstood. And what happened was when Europeans were translating the script, a lot of them practiced the Abrahamic faith, so they pushed their dogma on emphasis on science. So a lot of what we're calling a nature or a masculine aspect of the divinity, which is the procreative force or naturette, a lot of them place emphasis on the scientific process of investigating, trying to find empirical evidence, trying to self-correct yourself. And what a lot of times we get so caught up in spirituality, the real spirituality is science. And what is the greatest spiritual trick you can do? Self-correct. When you come to a conclusion and it is no longer of use to your culture, of use to your people, you correct that and you make that whole. Saruj, you go back and make it better. You correct it. Whatever was wrong, you build it up, you know, not for self-gratification, but so the community can grow. And that's an important thing that we face when people deal with Kemetic spirituality, because they are taking an emotional high and they're ignoring the sciences, the engineering, and the years of study dedicated to observing nature and testing and developing a methodology. So you can, most importantly, what? scrutinize and potentially falsify what you think is truth. So in the long term, when our children grow up, they can open up doors that were closed. But if you're scared to falsify your information, that's why in Kemet you see these different cosmologies. You see these different interpretations of Neteru and primary forces that they believe brought about creation. Because as their scientists were analyzing nature, they were starting to understand phenomenon more. So what was once mythological and a spiritual, it had to be spiritual because they didn't understand it. They couldn't isolate the phenomenon, break it down to its constituting parts, and then, extrapolate, and then, test it and all of this and falsify. But from that process, that comes your spirituality. A lot of times people are so busy trying to leave reality. You want to go to the 6th dimension, but you don't learn how to fact check. You don't think that's spiritual. You don't think diving into primary sources and seeing what a collective of scientists all around the world, you don't think that's spiritual, that all around the world, if you use the same steps and methods, you come to the same conclusions, that there's something spiritual in that. But we have ignored that because we want something easy. We want our food, you want to put it in a microwave, get it in a minute and 30 seconds. But that's just not reality. And what we deem to be spiritual is really crippling. What people in the consciousness community are now, they're emotional drug addicts. You have to overstimulate them. They have to have emotion. When you get through talking, they got to feel like a tear's about to come from their eye. They got to be jumping and, they be joyous and they got to feel proud about their leader. It's
right.
Am I true? I hate to get on these long rants.
I'm saying you right now. I be in church right now. Yeah.
Because the reality is, if we're dealing with that lifestyle, a prostitute wants her pimp to look nice. She wants to be able to brag about that. But what happens when you come into somebody that's not impressed with that lifestyle? Like, you know what I'm saying? What happens?
You get the crazy look.
You get the crazy, and like what you said, it's dangerous. We're in a dangerous environment where you can try to help somebody, and you could be attacked, and the person that's actually lousy character and a scammer, they're embraced. They get to move freely through our community with open arms.
That's crazy to me, though.
Open arms.
I ain't never been able to understand that, man. Like they is wholehearted embrace. And then some of the stuff that they be saying, I know our people is not that illiterate where they actually believe in a lot of this stuff that a lot of these people are saying. And I know our people is not that naive, man. They cannot be, man. I just don't understand it. Yeah, and that's it. Just lazy, and like you said, we're definitely in the microwave age, man. Like I'll say that the technology and us advancing, it, to me, and it's just my opinion, I say this is a gift and a curse, man, because it has made us so lazy, man. We don't want to do nothing, man. We want it instantly. We want it quick. And that's how a lot of these things are. Like when you talked about TikTok a while ago, TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, it's so easy for me to just grab my phone or grab my laptop and just go and pull up something, and I can look at something. It don't take no effort for me to grab my phone, click it, and then go, and look directly at a video and get the information off the video. And what's so crazy about that is the same people, and I'm gonna talk about this too Monday because me and brother Sheffrin gonna do a show, but how the people are using the same methods or the same methods that they was using and downing the people for being in the churches, the mosques, and the synagogues. They doing the very same thing that these people that you are downing, and that is going to a TikTok video, a YouTube video or clip, an Instagram clip or video, and you're looking at it, and these people are sounding intelligent. They are sounding like they know what they're talking about. And then we go back and we regurgitate that information that these people are actually talking about. That's the same thing that the Christian does. He goes to church and he listens to his pastor, a minister, says a sermon, and then he goes back and says, well, I don't know. I'm just saying from my experience here in Mississippi, this is the Bible Belt. So a lot of people that I used to have conversations with will say, my pastor said. Well, pastor said this. Well, pastor said that. Well, my minister said this. And that is the same thing that they are doing in the conscious community. They're going on, instead of saying their pastor, it's my personality says this. Right. So it's the same thing.
You're right.
Right. So, I mean, it's just, and I just don't get it. I just don't understand that, man, at times, man. But let's move on, man. Because we finna wrap up the interview in a minute. Let's talk about Amirah. I'm finna say Amirah again.
The Amirah Illumination.
Yeah, Amirah Illumination Volume 2. Now, what's the subtitle? Because I didn't put the subtitle of that one.
Well, this one didn't have a subtitle.
Okay. Well, I did, right? I thought I just probably.
Right, yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah.
This one
But yeah, kind of break this in here down for us, man. Because, and like I said, I just skimmed through it. I hadn't actually read it, but those other three I read, and I can validate that those publications are some good publications. And even like my brother said, he went back and updated all those volumes in those books as well. But man, yeah, let's talk to us about the Amirah Illusion Volume 2.
Yeah, and this is the Volume 2 was where I picked up where I was talking about astronomy. So this one, the focal point is more on astrophysics and how they measure time, things of this nature with the calendar. There was another emphasis in this book because I was getting a lot of DMs, and to this day there are still flat Earth supporters. There are plenty of Kyrie Irvings running around in a community near you, and they will argue you down. They will. It turns into a strange debate. So a lot of this book is showing proof that in Kemet it was understood. The Rebuttal recorded a spherical Earth, and then Europeans. I showed how some of your European scholars went back to some of the studies that were laid by the Rebuttal and how they calculated a spherical Earth in texts like the Rhind Papyrus and things of this nature. So this text places an emphasis on astronomy as opposed to astrology. So I try to set the standard in showing that our ancestors were not looking up in the sky expecting anything to influence them or control. Our ancestors, we didn't share that belief system. We didn't believe in a reality where we were looking up in the sky and expecting something to motivate us, control us, or save us or protect us from something. So
them women gonna kill you, man. Them women gonna eat you up. They already on Sutek. They gonna eat you up, man.
This one gets a little right. So I get into this, like the calendar system, and so that becomes the focal point. This is more leaning toward, astronomy and the misunderstanding the concepts like the Ankh and things of that nature. So and then the Ankh segues into human anatomy, physiology. Both of my texts, I show an emphasis on why we should appreciate, the science and the methodology of human biological evolution. That's another running theme that I push, because a lot of times there's this strange misconception about evolution that, 6 weeks ago you had chimpanzees, then poof, the day later we transformed into humans and things of this nature. So I try to show that there was always an emphasis in natural biological evolution in Kemet in the form of Keper or Kepera. And we had these concepts. We promoted these. Now we understood this. Well, we didn't have the actual hard technology, what we have today with supercomputers. We still had, with Tep Haseb, with correct methodology, you can still lay down the foundation to investigate your reality and come to conclusions where you can manipulate your surroundings. You can interact with nature better. You can prepare for flood. See, when we started talking about the sciences, the spirituality doesn't allow you to evolve or adapt with your actual surroundings. You know, what we call in evolutionary biology, a lot of what pushes biology is your fitness landscape, your actual environment. So your actual fitness, the layout of the land, the elements, the weather, the unexpected monsoons, whatever you may have to deal with, that sets the standard for you. And our spirituality was constantly developing sciences and ways of proving or falsifying theories so we could continue to build better civilizations. We would have better water purification systems, because like when we look at the term Kemet, it's not a reference to something mystical or magical or a racial designation. It's a reference to a place where you can come, you can bring your family, and you can have adequate supply to clean, potable water. The foundation of life itself revolves around access to water. Our brothers and sisters who were in Michigan dealing with that crisis with the water issues and everything. Ask anybody, ask these brothers and sisters. It wasn't too late, everybody forgot. Let's talk about Houston with the flooding and issues like that. When you don't have access to water, when you have a natural disaster, you don't have access to water. The first thing when you lose access to water, you don't look at the name of a nation and say, oh, I hope it's got a lot of black people there. I hope this is the land of the Africans. I hope this is the land of the Negroes. I hope this is the land of the Latinos. You say, I hope this is somewhere I can take my children and we can drink potable water. We can bathe. We can have agriculture and provide for ourselves and be independent. And these are issues that we face because when we don't understand the language of our ancestors, we do not understand their vision, the vision that they use to make sure that their children could provide for themselves and become greater scientists and greater controllers and manipulators of their environment. So that's the spirituality. A lot of what we call spirituality is just deified scientists. You had scientists deified. You had doctors deified. You had engineers deified. You had architects deified. You had specialized medical practitioners, each with their own specific tailor-made medical trade.
Yeah.
One would be focused on fractured bones, things of this nature. So a lot of what we were worshiping in classical Remetu civilization were scientists and our rigid thinkers that had this rigid methodology. So that's what we're losing track of. So I try to use the language and comparative linguistics with other related living languages like our Bantu speakers, the Yoruba, what we see in Togo and all of this nature, so we can bring it together and show how our ancestors, even in Western and Central Africa, we relied on sciences. We relied on hardcore, tangible science, natural science to solve our problems. We never looked up at the sky for a planet or a Messiah to come down and interact us. We were not the original Hebrew Israelites. We are not the original Christians. We have nothing to do with Muhammad. If you practice that, that's fine, but that's not your identity. And that was never anything that you used to solve problems.
That's what I appreciated about this. You did a real good job of articulating the Remetch's scientific aspect and like demystifying the beliefs. You because both of these had a lot to do with my development as far as understanding. I got the book from the Seshu. I got all them books, but this helped me like understand the culture along with a Sars book. But that's why I would advocate people get these, because that's exactly what it's going to do. You did a very good job on that. Both I read both of them, and I always be trying to get people, hey man, go get that, because it's a good, very good publication, very educational, especially as far as like how you tie in the West African civilizations and those rituals and whatnot. Like it's very, very deep.
Appreciate you. Because I revised both of these bad boys too, the Amirah Illumination. Because hopefully within a month, I'll have my next book. I'm still working on the title, but it's going to incorporate the ancestors. This is a book to the
and
ancestors.
I hope you do exactly what I said, man. If you continue to collecting all of this data and trying to keep collecting data, let me do this.
You're right. It's
never
coming.
finish that
I'm
book.
wrapping it up.
Yep.
This one, I got a whole chapter on methodology or whatever. And everything. You know, there's a few, you know, debates I saw, you know, people, oh, well, I got this expert. And I'm like, God, a lot of the people who are misinformed, they use the weakest forms of evidence to mount their whole ego on. You know, they want to get up in your face and use the weakest form. Like, you know, I mean, I'm like, eyewitness accounts and things, stuff that don't even fly in court. Yeah, my mama said, and her mama and my auntie is cool. So who are you? And then the most important thing is your crown chakra activated? Is your kundalini flowing? You know what I'm saying? Like, so what's really going, we can deflect. Like, so it's crazy.
Yeah. But man, this is a question too I ask everybody, man. After coming up with ideals, writing chapters, editing, putting the book together, publishing it, what did you learn about yourself?
Me personally, I learned that I have a lot to learn and that it's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to have some type of indirect personal attachment to a face and an author or somebody presenting you information because, you know, you want to feel grateful. Like you helped wake me up. Even if the information wasn't right, you feel like you have some awakening. But I learned, but that's not good enough. Just being comfortable and being around circles of people and having them smile in your face, that's not fulfilling. If you can make a statement, every time you make a statement, everybody around you nods their head, there's something wrong with that. And you shouldn't want to be around people that when you fumble, when you make a mistake and they present some information to you, you should embrace that. You should not want to be around people that are constantly agreeing. There's no way on earth we can interact and I just say just line after line after line after, and everything I cite is right and exact. It would be crazy to assume that. And just because I'm 65, I got a head full of gray hair. I went to Kemet 45 times. Look at all these pictures I took. I got a whole photo album. That doesn't mean I can read and write the language. It doesn't mean I understand the grammar. It doesn't mean that all those 35 times I went there, it was with somebody that's pseudoscientific also and would rather be participating with Hinduism, New Age religion, Wicca, or whatever European construct they want to merge to fit everything that they don't understand. So, I mean, it's levels to this. It's levels to this. In that writing process, I learned quickly that if you're not around people that can self-correct or admit when they have mistakes, it's time to cut ties with them. Or there's got to be a confrontation. You always want it to be polite or whatever, but when you see somebody that's moving like that, you have to address it. There has to be, even if it's a polite one, there has to be some type of confrontation, so you can at least look them in the eye and say, like, you see this, right? You're running into a brick wall. Why are you going to lead everybody else into a brick wall? So I'm the type of personality, I got to put that on the record. Then we can part ways. Like, if you want to run into the brick wall, I salute you. But you got to run into it by yourself. And that's another thing as us as researchers, some of these people, we're going to have to let them just jump off the ledge. No parachute, just jump. You believe it. Like, you know, so go ahead and jump. You get no parachutes from me. You're going to have to prove you can fly. And the problem is they can't. That's why watching them jump off the ledge can be amusing too. So some of these people, you got to let them put themselves out there. And then that's the best time to expose them, because the ego, it's crazy. In the writing process, sometimes it can expose people. Like, you start looking at some of these authors, some of these spiritual leaders, and you start seeing that they don't evolve. They don't change. They don't grow. The only thing that grows are the like buttons that they get and the emotional responses that they get. And that's a problem with me, because when you get to that, It's not about having proper methodology. When you deal with people like that are worshiped for their personalities, the way that they beat you in a debate, it's not with actual evidence, it's with emotions. Can they be louder than you? Can they cuss at you? Can they take a cheap shot just good enough so everybody can laugh and then jump on that?
Yep.
And then lose track of the actual argument,
Yep.
the evidence, the data, the statistics that are universal.
Yep.
That's why they always want to go live. Let's go
Yep.
live. Let's
Yep.
go
Let's
live.
go live. Yeah, come on. So they want to crack jokes. You know,
Yep.
a lot of these dudes, they're more naturally inclined to be stand-up comedians than scholars. And the way they do research on TikTok and all these little 3-minute YouTube videos, it becomes obvious.
Yep. I agree. I done seen, and I used to watch Sonetta a lot, watch debates. I used to buy all the debates.
Right.
You know, with he live stream them, and a lot of people, information, I'd be like, well, dang, he won because he was more charismatic and, you know, he was able to captivate the audience. He was able to tell a joke and get people to laugh. And he had some entertainment in between there. He walked out with rap music and, you know, so, and that trumps the information, you know what I'm saying? Right. So they deemed this person won. And I'm like, man, he was spitting some pseudoscience everywhere. But this guy here, man, was boom, boom. He was on this, that, and the third. But y'all saying he won. So I agree. I agree with that, man. So this is the last question, man. Can you give any advice to anyone, advice to up and coming writers? Can you give advice to up and coming writers?
I would say expect to make a lot of mistakes and do not, as a writer, if you're a beginner, or if you 10 years deep in this, don't ever come to the game with a pen. Come to it with a pencil, because you're gonna need an eraser. And you're gonna have to be willing to humble yourself and always admit when you make mistakes and constantly look for opposing opinions. Try to dig for as many sources as possible and don't get comfortable. If you're looking for a pat on the back, being an author this isn't for you. You're not cut out, you're not built for this. If you need a pat on the back, instant gratification, you want to be loved, this isn't for you. You have to be willing to come back every year and say, I stumbled on this step. I stumbled on this one. I fell down on this, but look at how much stronger I got. Now I've improved on this, and I can build, and being able to do that, it makes you stronger, because not only can you just analyze other people's stuff, you can fix things that's going on in your personal life. Because that process, you know, correct methodology, that crosses over to your personal life.
Yep.
So when you're dealing with personalities that are worshipped like this, there's probably some personal issues going on there too, that may be overlooked or whatever. So I think that's the most important thing, because, you know, being an author or whatever, it can help. It can enhance your maturity, I think, because you're constantly realizing that you're not the smartest person in the room. When I'm in the Mossi Warrior Clan, when I'm with the squad, when I'm with the Seshu, I'm not the smartest person in the room. And you need to look forward to that, because that means you got somebody that can help you when you fall down. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. You need to be proud that you run into people that are smarter than you, know more in certain fields than you, can check you. Whether you like the tone of their voice or not, they can check you and bring you correct information to get you on the right path so you can make the best informed decision you need to make.
Yep, I definitely agree. And I can appreciate a brother like you, because, you know what I'm saying, you humble and you confessing that you don't know everything, you know, and that's the issue with people. People don't want to be wrong. People don't want to be wrong. People don't want to go and you know, correct the information that they have. They're gonna stand on it, even if you know they find out that the information is flawed, the information is not accurate. They still gonna stand on it because they don't want to be proven wrong. They want to be Mr. Know-it-all or Mrs. Know-it-all, and there's a lot of people in that other community that are Mr. Know-it-alls. You can't tell them nothing. You know, you can't tell them nothing. They don't want their information scrutinized, but you do a live video and you put it out there where the world can actually see it and scrutinize it, but you get upset and you cussing them out, all types of ad hominems, you know what I'm saying, because of them, you know, and I don't have a problem with, like I said, I don't have a problem with people correcting my information. It's just the problem lies with me is when you come at me sideways, you know, and when you come at me sideways, then I'm gonna put, you know, it's out the window. I can't even hear you at this point because how you came at me. So anything that you saying, I ain't even trying to hear it no way because, and so I like how you said how you and that was something that I ended up having to learn too. Was when I told you I first became aware in late 2018, not 2018, 2012. I was very aggressive with Christians, Muslims, because Muslims, I'm just say those two because I didn't know anybody that practiced Judaism at the time. And and I wanted them to listen to me. So I had to figure out a way how I could actually be, you know, how I can do it where I actually can get them to listen. So I was kind of being gentle. I was kind of easing stuff in, you know, here and there. You know what I'm saying? Hey, have you looked at this? And, you know, pulling up something, you know, look at this, how you consider looking at that. Or I try to compare something with this just to try to get them to lure them in. So I just would try to do all types of things to try to lure them in just to listen. You know, some will listen, take heed of it. And some, you know, like I say, it ain't going to matter one way or another. And they may listen, but at the end of the day, they still gonna stand on their belief. There's no way of changing, no matter how much you prove to them that this is false. You know, you can't falsify certain things. You can't prove certain things. So, you know, they still gonna stand on it, man. But I definitely appreciate it. I hope those who was listening, man, you know, coming in and out, you know, and people that stayed the duration of the time. I told you this was going to be an informative interview, a learning interview. And, you know, and I told you this brother was a very, very intelligent brother, been knowing him for quite a while ever since. Well, I'm trying to, before we get out there, how did I meet? I'm trying to figure out, how did I meet you? Because and when as soon as I figure I met you, I bought your first book. Actually, did I buy? I think I bought all three of them books at one time.
At the time. I think it was through the Seshu crew.
Might have been through the
when I started building, like through Ujau.
Yep. That's
I think Ujau got us introduced.
Yep. And when I found out you wrote books, man, I jumped
Brother
on
T'Challa
right
back in the day, wasn't he back in the Seshu crew too?
Well, he wasn't.
Later.
He was in there, but he actually didn't become a member. He actually did everything I think he was supposed to do to become a member, because in order to be a member of the Seshu Maat and Humanity, you first had to take the class. Right. You had to pass the class, and then there was an additional test that they had to take afterwards. Once they passed that and met a few other criteria, I think he met all of those. I don't know what happened with that. I think I could be wrong. I can't remember. But he was actually supposed to be a member. But he built with us a lot. That's how I met T'Challa, through him, and then through passing, we just kind of kept on. And then, you know, he when we formed the group, he became one of the founding members of the Kofi Piesie ResearchTeam. But and actually through that, me and him and Ben was actually going to be. We actually was trying to form a group, but it never got off the ground, just the three of us, and we was going to actually do something, but that never transpired. And then T'Challa went absent for a while, and then when he started coming back up, I started bringing him on the channel, and you know, we built a great rapport, you know, a brotherhood, and then he ended up, you know, getting down with the group, man, and becoming a great asset for the group, man, as well, man. So yeah, I met him also through Wu Jiao, you know, us building after those Freestyle Fridays and
Brother Sean too, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's how I met Brother Sean too, was from Seshu.
Yep, and Divine Words Wednesday. But like I said, man, I appreciate you, man, for coming on the panel, man. I definitely enjoyed the interview. It was been waiting on this interview a long time.
Oh man, I'm so proud of you, man. Like what you do for the community. Helping out the academy and these children. You, Brother Sean, I'm proud of you for the book. Brother Chavez. It's like, man, I should have been on here a long time ago because you brothers, you inspire me. So I can become, and I'm always learning something from you all. So it's like, well, technically we family, so I don't know if I'm like,
we family, man. We family, man, and we definitely gonna have you back on here, man. Whenever you get ready, man, you want to come back, man, you more than welcome to come back, man, and build with you. I'll be glad. We all will be glad to have you back on, man, again. So I said ETM Hotep in the beginning, which means bring forth peace. And then so you know, at the end, I always say Shemim Hotep. Shemim Hotep just means to depart and peace. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate your support. We appreciate those that may come back in the archives and look at this video. Tomorrow, I'll be live again at 3 p.m. We'll be on the but we will be on the Warrior Scholar Show. I have Baba Amin, who is the CEO and founder of the Yahuro Academy. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the crises in the in the African-American community. We'll be talking about how important it is to have an African-centered education and tons of other things that we'll be talking about tomorrow. That is the 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, the African Warrior Scholar Show with Baba Amin. I'm excited about that interview as well. So y'all tune back in, come back in, and watch us, man. Again, we appreciate y'all support, man. And before I get out of here, man, I keep saying, y'all send me some info. I got some music, some other information, some other music. But if y'all rappers, you know what I'm saying, and got some great content, you know what I'm saying, hit me up, man. I like to play your music. On the show, on the air, I've been playing a couple of songs from one of our Mossi Warrior Clan brothers, Fortune Believes, off of his Fireproof EP, which is a nice EP.
Yeah, good music, music.
Go check it out. I got some other stuff I'll be playing probably tomorrow. And it's a brother that sent me something. I can't even think of his name. I hope, he watched the show whenever I play his music and he let me know who he is so I can thank him again. He sent that to me. Man, might have been about 2 years ago, and I never did nothing with the music, man, but I greatly appreciate that, brother. And I got some other instrumentals that I'll be sharing with the people that one of my partners that we used to have a studio together, he's still doing music, and we used to do beats. We used to, own the studio, and we was actually in a group together. We had put out a couple of CDs. I'm probably going to do one of the beats I'm going to play. I'm going to do an intro for it, go to the studio and, show y'all my skills again, that I got bars also. But man, on that.
Oh, here we go. That's what's up.
But on that note, man, I'm going to leave y'all again with Fortune Believes song, man. I appreciate y'all, man. And we'll see y'all next time, man. Peace and Black African Power. And this is my favorite song off the EP, which is Foolish, that I played earlier, man. So, peace. We out of here.
Yeah. It's so real. So real. Yeah. I'm subhuman. What kind of woman wanna love a mutant? Resort to me after these thugs use them. My bedroom is a strange ruin. Last time I hit a chick was King Driving. She ain't done suing. I'm done doing wasted years. I'm ruined. I attempt to shoot and score, but it's my destiny to be a troubadour. A true whore. I'm like a Labrador retriever receiving the red flag matador. I'm mad at the world. I once portrayed I was a savage to bedazzle a girl. Stiletto heels and sew-ins I would lavish her. Told me I was soft trying to romance her. I should ravish her. World around, left me for real niggas to word around. World renowned, what mirrors reveal, I admit. I'll always be a coward and I ain't worth shit. Roses I read, the double Glock between my eyes blue. It's imminent, I'm too fucking effeminate. I'm a fool.
I've always put my pride aside. I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise. I simply play it cool. I'm foolish, yeah.
I'm so self-conscious with no self-conscious. It's times I went too far and I got some mental scarring. I had this melanated girl but hesitated to be thorough. My time went in the rounds, I'm trying to elevate the world. Mutual attraction, but lacking physically in figure. Contrast to the ass being the famous rapper. Get you is brewing, other women alluring. And now the more we sex, you feel neglected. Our connections getting ruined. You would fight for my love while I chase bitches that don't love me. You even cook for me, but she got a better look for me. You spin your racks up on me, hit niggas with the ratchet for me, just for us to be in matrimony. But friend zone it the brother who would love to serve you, cause I never deserved you. So neither us is using virtue. Can't you see we in a circle? Each of us are cruel. For them I'm a fool, for me you a fool. Betty asking too.
I've always put my pride aside. I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise. I simply play it cool. I'm foolish.
My troubled ass browsing, subsidized housing. This bubbled ad lousy shit to leave your ad gouging. I'd rather be fad doused than hear these verbal roundhouses. Y'all raising your mouths loud. Can't you see your child's rousing? My look upon lounging. He should bestow my masculinity. And up there slept and crept disaster enemies. Look at myself doubting all these passive tendencies. I had passive piety, but cash is deity. Niggas went from dope sack selling to cul-de-sac dwelling. I kept the 9 to 5, wept and whined, but why? My stomach large and my face hardened. Gone is my hopes. Spent 4 years on car notes, my wage garnished. I still keep feeling like I ain't shit. Even if I had a fucking facelift, it's self-hatred. To eat a 9mm told me to pill a hater. To kill the day to live like told me Philippator.
I've always put my pride aside. I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise. I simply play it cool. Cause I'm foolish. I'm foolish. Yeah. Cause I'm foolish.
Cause I'm foolish. Cause I'm foolish.